Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're taking a massive step back. We're going to look at the really big picture here, zooming all the way out from SpaceX's near-term reality to its absolute wildest future ambitions. If you think you know exactly what this company is building, well, get ready to adjust your perspective a bit. We're going to dive into the hard data and the concrete steps that are literally paving the way to a completely unrecognizable future. All right, let's dive right into this. With a pretty provocative quote from Elon Musk, "The scale of what is to come has no precedent." You know, when people hear statements like that, they usually immediately jump to science fiction. But based on the source material we're looking at today, what if it's actually the exact opposite? What if what sounds like pure sci-fi is honestly, genuinely underselling reality?
To really grasp that unprecedented scale, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. A scale without precedent. 2. The global telecom takeover. 3. Near-term financial catalysts. And 4. Building a sentient sun.
So, jumping into Section 1, a scale without precedent, SpaceX on Earth.
Now, there's obviously a ton of polarized debate out there in the media, but our focus today is entirely neutral. We are looking strictly at the objective engineering, the science, and the strategic track record of this company. The core driver we're focusing on isn't just the mission, it's the proven ability to adapt through catastrophic rocket failures, tactically shift strategies, and then turn those hard-learned lessons into absolutely groundbreaking physical and financial engineering. Moving on to Section 2, the global telecom takeover, disrupting connectivity.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer staggering dominance we're already seeing. Starlink controls more than 60% of all active satellites currently in orbit worldwide. And beyond just the sheer volume of satellites, they control over 70% of the prime orbit specifically meant for direct-to-cell service. Think about that for a second. This isn't some far-off future projection. This is the reality of our sky right now.
And this dominance becomes even more absolutely crucial when we look at the geopolitical landscape. Right now, we're looking at a massive contrast. Starlink's active fleet of over 12,400 satellites against China's current fleet of just 200. You see, space orbits and frequencies are non-renewable resources. Once you claim those prime spots, they are gone for good. China has approval to launch hundreds of thousands of satellites, but they haven't actually built them yet. The first entity to file and launch keeps the rights, making this a super intense, high-stakes race to secure the physical real estate of low Earth orbit.
So, why does all this orbital real estate actually matter? Well, ARK Invest has a really fascinating thesis on this. Basically, current telecom is geographically fragmented, right? If you're a customer of a company in the US, you can't just seamlessly use that same native network in Europe. You rely on fragmented, local physical assets. Starlink, however, is building a single, unified global network. With their direct-to-cell service, every single additional user costs SpaceX virtually $0 to add once that satellite is up there. They're doing to sluggish, regional cellular providers exactly what Netflix did to regional cable media, offering a seamless, truly global service literally from day one. I mean, imagine never losing your cell signal no matter where you are on the globe.
Which brings us to Section 3, near-term financial catalysts, funding the future. Just take a second to process this massive number. $85.7 billion. That's the valuation of the huge war chest SpaceX recently raised. And let me tell you, financial engineering is just as critical here as the rocket science. Having this absolutely unprecedented level of capital secured way ahead of competitors allows them to move faster, easily absorb failures, and push forward on projects that other companies simply cannot afford to even conceptualize.
And it makes total sense why they need that cash, because these massive ambitions require foundational sunk costs. We're talking about $4 billion heavily invested into the Falcon and Dragon systems, a staggering $15 billion into building Starship, which is the largest vehicle ever to fly, by the way, and $20 billion into the Starlink constellation. These aren't just your everyday operating expenses. These are foundational sunk costs. They've basically paid the absolute steepest price of entry to pave the way for what comes next: massive terrestrial data centers and advanced AI software. There's also a really dense sequence of financial milestones driving all this momentum right now. Over the summer, we saw index inclusions triggering billions in forced passive buying, which led right into NASDAQ 100 inclusions. Then came SpaceX's highly anticipated Q2 earnings, where they're operating essentially like a public company. Crucially, just a couple of days post-earnings, roughly 30% of eligible insider shares unlocked, suddenly injecting vast amounts of liquidity into the market. These are massive financial levers pulling in huge amounts of capital, creating an engine powerful enough to actually fund their true end goals.
And that leads us to Section 4, building a sentient sun, an interplanetary vision.
So the absolutely crucial point to understand here is that the fundamental unlock for all of this comes down to one metric: cost per kilogram. The space shuttle cost roughly $54,000 to send a single kilogram of cargo into space. With Starship at maturity, SpaceX aims to drop that to just $100 per kilogram. This dramatic collapse in cost is the real game changer here. It's the exact equivalent of the transcontinental railroad or the invention of the sailboat. When the cost of transport drops to near zero, what used to be science fiction suddenly actually becomes economically viable.
With that incredibly cheap access to space, we enter venture capitalist Mark Andreessen's thesis for a multiplanetary economy. It's essentially a step-by-step compute expansion plan. It starts with highly profitable terrestrial data centers right here on Earth. Those profits then fund orbital data centers out in space, which in turn provide the massive computing power needed for automated moon factories. And then, those factories build the physical infrastructure necessary to eventually construct and sustain Mars cities. Every single step funds the next one, steadily expanding an AI-powered civilization outward.
And all of that incredible expansion leads to this ultimate climax, the sentient sun. Our sun makes up 99.9% of the entire mass and energy of our solar system. The vision here is to ultimately harness that virtually limitless solar power to run unprecedented levels of AI compute. It's literally the idea of extending the light of consciousness out to the stars, taking the raw, dead energy of a star and turning it into boundless intelligence and abundance for all of humanity. From deploying global cellular networks today to eventually building a computational shell around our sun, this incredible roadmap is being executed right in front of us, which leaves us with this final, truly vital question to grapple with. Are we actually prepared for a future where a single company's physical, financial, and digital ecosystem literally powers a multiplanetary, AI-driven civilization? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and hey, keep your eyes on the skies.